Good day, students. Welcome to another lesson on history. We're still on the nuclear age. So in this lesson, we're going to be talking about communism versus capitalism. Um, we're also going to talk about how the World War II ended. Right. So the USSR and communism. So a great change took place in Russia during World War One. The Russian Revolution of 1917. The King Tsar Nicholas II was overthrown and the communist government took over the government. Right. So basically, what happened is the king was Tsar Nicholas II was the king, and then um, during World War One he was overthrown, and then that is when the communist government took over the government. So Russia was renamed the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR. So the Russian Revolution was a turning point in world history. Lenin, the leader of a communist political party called the Bolsheviks, took over Russia in 1917 in the world's first communist revolution. That was the beginning of the communism. So Lenin and the Bolsheviks offered what ordinary poverty-stricken Russians wanted, right? Because of all things, um, he wanted, power. So obviously, the majority of the people were the poor people, and then he offered them what they wanted, right? So he offered them land, peace, and bread in order to gain support. So Russia withdrew from World War One in 1917. Then Stalin took over the leadership of the Soviet Union when Lenin died in 1924. And then Stalin was a ruthless dictator. He didn't care about anyone. With the use of extreme violence, he created a mighty military industrial world power and led the Soviet Union into the World War II. He was still in power when World War II ended in 1945. So Lenin, there is Lenin on your left. He took over Russia in 1917, the world's first communist revolution. So Stalin was the dictator of the USSR from 1924 until his death in 1953 when Lenin died. So what is communism? So this is what you need to understand about communism. So communists didn't like a few rich people controlling all the wealth in the country like um, capitalism do, right? So they wanted everybody to have a fair share of the richness of the country. So they believed that the government should rule in the interest of all, not just the rich. So the wealth should be shared equally between people. The communist economy is centrally planned to make sure that there is economic equality, so everybody gets a fair share of the economy's richness. So no one can own private property or make a profit. The state owns all large industries and other sources of wealth. The communist governments are not usually democratic, they're usually autocratic, right? They don't give other people, uh, the majority of the people doesn't have a say in the running of the country. So, unlike Nazism and fascism, the ideology of communism is highly sophisticated. So, these ideas were developed by some of the world's greatest thinkers. So, you mustn't think that it's something that has been created by dumb people. No, it was people who were very clever, like Karl Marx, Vladimir Lenin, and Leon Trotsky. So, communism is a revolutionary movement that promotes the violent overthrow of capitalism. So, that is, business owned by private people, not by the government. So communism became a popular ideology among poor people all over the world because why? It spread the idea that everybody has to get a fair share of what the country owns. So the government of America and the Western Europe thought that communism was a threat to them because why? They ran capitalism, and wherever they could, they tried to stamp it out. So that is where the tension really stemmed out from between the USSR and the Allies, because the West was supporting capitalism and the USSR was supporting communism. So, what is capitalism? So, the USA and the West and capitalism. So, the United States of America is a capitalist country. It became an extremely powerful nation during the First World War. It was a very big country that occupies most of North America with its 50 states. The capital city is Washington, D.C. The countries that are allied to the USA are referred to as the West. So the West included capitalist democratic countries in Western Europe. So you must know that capitalism supported democracy, including Britain. So capitalism in case? What does capitalism have in mind? So the main ideology behind capitalism is that is the belief that there is nothing wrong with some people being very rich and other people being very poor. Okay? So the possibility of making a profit motivates motivates people to work harder. So individuals own private properties. In capitalist countries, the government doesn't control the economy. The economy is controlled by private individuals. The rights of individuals who own huge industries and gather great wealth are protected while other people remain very poor. So, capitalist government may be democratic, but some are sometimes fascist, right? So, Harry Truman led America through the final stages of World War II and through the years after the war. He was strongly opposed to the Soviet Union, expanding its control in Europe and other parts of the world. He wanted the United States to resist communism and to limit Soviet expansion. Because he felt that, if the Soviet Union is to expand, then communism was going to spread to all over the country, all over the country that it was spreading to. So he was felt threatened that communism was going to take over capitalism. So when, where, why, and how did World War II come to an end? So Albert Einstein ideas. So Albert Einstein is one of the best known scientists who ever lived. He grew up in Germany and developed scientific ideas that changed our understanding of the universe. In 1921, he was then awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in Physics. Einstein wasn't directly involved in the making of the nuclear or atomic bomb, but his scientific theories were used to develop the first nuclear bomb. So you can see that his ideas were well versed, that they took them and they were able to make the first nuclear bomb. So when Hitler began to gain power in Germany, Einstein was horrified. He was Jewish, so obviously he left to escape the Nazis and went to live in America. He encouraged the American government to invent an atomic bomb to stop Nazi ideas from spreading. The atomic bombs that American scientists invented were not used on Nazi Germany but on another Axis power, namely Japan. So the Manhattan Project. In 1939, the US government started the Manhattan Project, a top secret research project to research and produce an atomic bomb. From 1939 to 1945, America's best scientists worked on this project. The bomb they were trying to create had the code name the Gadget. And on the 16th of July 1945, the Gadget was successfully exploded in the desert near Los Alamos in the state of New Mexico. The heat of the blast was so hot that it turned the sand under the explosion to glass. So after years of hard work, the leader of Manhattan Project, Robert Oppenheimer, was relieved about the success of the explosion, but at the same time he realized that it had deadly destructive power. The end of World War II and the beginning of the nuclear age. So by May 1945, Germany and Italy had been defeated by Japan, but Japan was still fighting. So in order to defeat Japan in August 1945, America dropped its newly invented atomic bombs of enormous power on two Japanese cities. The city of Hiroshima was bombed on the 6th of August, and on the 9th of August, a bomb was also dropped in the city of Nagasaki. So America didn't want to use the nuclear bombs, but it wanted to stop the war. That is why it had to use the atomic bomb. So the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were chosen as targets because they produced weapons of war for Japan. And then the number of people died instantly at Hiroshima was over 19,000, and Nagasaki over 60,000. In both cities, thousands were more seriously injured. And then on the 14th of August, Japan finally admitted it had been defeated. The Second World War had ended. Since America dropped atomic or nuclear bombs, We have been living in an age that is often called the nuclear age or the atomic age. The threat of terrifying and devastating nuclear weapons changed the nature of war forever. And then Einstein was deeply concerned about humanity and world peace. After the atomic bombs were dropped at Japan, he tried to persuade world leaders to give up nuclear weapons. Alright, so the last question it's actually basic and activity. So we have come to the end of this lesson.